Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review for Attack on Titan episode 45. When we last left off, Attack on Titan had one of its best episodes in its run, as we had a kick-ass fight between Team Kenny and Team Levi that, did everything an ODM gear fight should do, and then we had all of the drama with Historia, Rod, and Eren, as Historia rejected the race bloodline, rejected the Founding Titan's power, and freed Eren, much to Eren's infinite distress, just wants to die and get it over with. And then Rod turned into a Titan. And that's where we left off. So, the first thing we find out is that last week I said that I was not sure if Hanji survived her fall at the hands of, I think Kaven is her name, Kenny's lieutenant. And so, first thing we find out is that, I think it's Armin and Moblit are carrying Hanji, and so Hanji is still alive. She survived that, which is always good, because more Hanji is always a plus. And then we cut to Rod transforming into a Titan, right where we left off last week, and the entire cavern is falling apart. And at first, I couldn't figure out why, because this is before we realized just how gigantic of a Titan Rod would become. And my initial question was how did the cavern survive all the other transformations over the past decades, as well as the full on knockdown drag out fist fight between Frida and Grisha 5 years ago. But then that kind of led into another question: is that why is Rod so big? He's twice the size of the Colossal Titan of Bertolt. So why the fuck is Rod such a fucking Bertolt is at least one of the taller members of the cast, so I guess if anyone's the Colossal Titan, of course it'll be the Giant. But Rod is short and pudgy. He's not a giant, and yet he's, a giant fucking Titan. So that's kind of probably just a random question, doesn't really come up again, but but anyway, as he's transforming, Eren is all this is it, we're gonna die, and Levi's squad shows up just to knock him out of his bullshit. Well, first they show up to free him and all, but then no, we're not dying here. But speaking of dying here, the Kenny squad all dies by gigantic rocks falling on their heads, which is kind of a cop-out, but whatever, I accept it at this point. The Rod stuff is kind of where it's at the moment. But we are not shown the fate of Kenny. And so, assuming Kenny survives this, I feel like they're setting up even more parallels between him and Levi. Given that, the first season, of course, ended with all of Levi's squad getting murdered by Annie. And now we have Kenny's squad getting indirectly murdered by Rod. And so I feel like they're setting up more, they already have the parallel of their shared past that's still honestly kind of vague, but doesn't really need to be explored, honestly. And now they've both lost entire squads. So I'm assuming there's going to be something else there. At least if Kenny survives all that. We still don't actually know if Kenny survives. Hopefully he does, but it just kind of seems like a waste of a character, but whatever. And then meanwhile, back with Eren and the Levi squad, Eren finds a random bottle on the ground, which is incredibly convenient. All of a sudden the bottle that, as we eventually find out, gives him the hardening abilities that he was unable to master in the past, is more than a little contrived. It's kind of bullshit. But the more important thing is that Eren can read the text on it. And I'm assuming that text is the same language that Ymir read back in episode, I think 29 or 30, back at Utgard Castle. That, Reiner was all oh, how the fuck can you read that? That's not in our language. I'm assuming that's the same thing, kind of setting up more of maybe even the Founding Titan's power, if it's the same, if he has the soul of the original race king. I don't know. That's just my theory. Though given the bottle was destroyed when Eren can apparently shatter glass with his teeth now, okay. Or maybe he bit down on it as he was turning into a Titan, I don't know. he still had the injury is how he opened up, I guess. But anyway, after that, Eren saves that Eren becomes the Titan, hardens, stops the collapse of the room, of the cavern, I mean, and the gang escapes to above ground, where we check in with Erwin, who, is watching this monstrous Titan in Rod Race rise from the ground in what might just be the coolest image this series has ever given us. It's just super striking. It's a great moment. It's super cool. Even if, honestly, I've heard people criticize the CG Titans, both with Rod in this episode and with Berthold way back in Season 2, when the Colossal Titan went full CG. I disagree. The CG Titans are really cool. They really, kind of highlight the inhumanity of Titans, which are, right... Titans, I feel like, are already kind of in a naturally uncanny valley-like state. Just the fact they look so human, but they're also so inhuman, makes a really nice dichotomy. And the CG, to make them look slightly more off, really works, in my opinion. But anyway, after Titan Rod rises from the ground, super cool again, the scouts all convene to, discuss their next move and where Rod is heading. And Erwin says with such confidence, it's heading to Orvud. Which makes me wonder what's in Orvud. Is it just the nearest wall city? My first thought is that Orvud must be one of the Wall Rose walls, and so it was trying to get out of the Titan country. But then I looked it up, and it's one of the Wall Sina barrier cities or whatever they're called. And so maybe, I don't know, he's trying to break free. Maybe he's just, I don't know. There's got to be something. Rod, I feel like, is acting very much on some kind of instinct revolving around the kingship, around the monarchy. And so maybe Orvud is the true ancestral capital. If the king was fake, maybe the capital is also fake. I don't know. That's just, I don't know. I don't know why he's going to Orvud, but I'm accepting that he is going to Orvud. And so most of the rest of the episode is the gang headed to Orvud while following Rod, or keeping tabs on Rod. And Hanji, at one point, gives this description of the first king's version of peace being controlled by the Titans that really Rod went over last week. And I love how we hear that description, at the first king's version of what peace is, behind the walls. But in the background we see the Titans just destroying all of the inside of Wall Rose. That's a really nice bit. But then they start talking about how Eren's new hardening power, which I guess is permanent, even though they don't really have any way of testing if it's just permanent, just a one-time effect of the bottle, still not really known. Eren mentions, now we can plug up Wall Maria, Shiganshina, and then we can finally get to the basement. And Sasha, for a second, there's the basement? And do the other scouts not know about the basement? Maybe all the scout, legions of scouts might not know. But I figure Eren's friends would know. Also, I think Jean is Eren's basement. So I think they know. But the basement has been forgotten about for so long. It really is a meme. We'll never know what's in the basement. Though I think the manga, they actually do know what's in the basement. But I'm an anime only person, so for this series especially, do not spoil. I say that for all of my for Steins Gate Zero and for Academia and for Angels of Death, but especially for Titan, do not spoil. This is a very big mystery series, and I like the mysteries to stay fresh. So please do not spoil. And then they arrive in Orvud to plan out a strategy meeting to stop Rod, because I guess they got their head of Rod. I guess horses move faster than giant Titans. And as they're all getting out of the carriage, Levi walks up, and he tells Astoria that Erwin has ordered her to become the new queen. And there's something so hilarious in the idea of someone ordering someone else to become queen. Like, I don't know, I just found that a really funny image in my head. I really couldn't stop laughing over it. Then Jean and Connie both were like, yo, she just got out of the shackles of the race bloodline. You know, don't throw her back in already. But Historia's just like, no, I can do this. I'm gonna be queen. You know, someone's got to do it. I may be an enemy of humanity, but we still kind of need a queen or a monarch in general. But before that, I have one request, she says, and that is, next time we see her, she walks into the strategy meeting in, like, you know, citizen clothes, and she's back with the scouts, ready to kick Rod's ass. And the last thing we see before the episode ends is one of the garrison commanders asks Erwin what his plan is to evacuate Orvud, and he says, we're not going to evacuate Orvud. And so Erwin's gotta have some plan to stop Rod, right? Like, he's not gonna let all of Orvud die. I feel like that's not gonna happen. I feel like that's just kind of, you know, not a particularly great cliffhanger. Nowhere near, you know, last week's fantastic cliffhanger. To make us think that, oh, maybe Erwin is gonna end up betraying humanity, but no one believes that's gonna happen, so what's the point? But anyway, this was, as an episode, all in all, this was nowhere near the highs of last week. Last week was, you know, maybe even the series' best. It was, you know, kinetic action, it had plots, it had emotional drama. Last week was fucking amazing. This week, it's good, you know, it's still Titan. Titan on a bad day is still Titan. But like, I'm more excited to see what comes in next week. As I actually looked it up how much farther we have to go in the arc, and I think it's like 3 chapters left. So I imagine everything with Rod is going to get handled next week. Someone's going to die, of course, probably, I don't know, make your predictions who's going to die in the fight with Rod. My money's on Moblet, just because Moblet is an important enough and yet minor enough character that his death will be kind of sad, but not really game-changing, and it doesn't really seem like we have the space right now for a game-changing death. I don't think they're gonna kill off Historia. She just became important. Let's not kill her off. I know it's a trope, like, you make someone important right before you kill them, but she's been important for too long for that to be a thing, in my opinion. So I think Historia's got a long life ahead of her, or as long as anyone's life is on Titan, you know. But yeah, my money, if anyone dies, it'll be Moblet. But honestly, I don't think anyone's gonna die. But yeah, I'm gonna leave this off here. I hope you all enjoyed the video and the episode. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, or subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Bye!